So one of the reasons I was very keen to get to Kanchanaburi is because I've been researching the activities of Japanese peace pilgrimage reconciliation activists who've been coming out to Kanchanaburi since the mid-60s, in particular a man called Takashe Nagase. And I wanted to see the site and particularly the temple he built, the Peace Temple. And like many things that happen when we arrived there, it was rather sad to see it in somewhat a state of disrepair. And yet we saw a lot of Japanese tourists, but I don't think they were tourists of the type that Takashe Nagase was keen to encourage, which was reconciliation tourists. Now, you spoke to some of these tourists once, and what impressions did you gather from your conversations with them?
One Japanese I talked to, and I asked him, like, do you know history of this place? And he said, like, yes, I heard, but not really in details, and that Japanese hiring laborers to build the bridge. This is what he told me. And I didn't have any feeling that, he want to connect, kind of the history of his country. I don't feel that. And also one gentleman, he said that his granddad was working in Myanmar at the time during the Second World War, and he believed that maybe he used this bridge. Yeah. So for him, he has some sort of connection toward his granddad.
Yeah. This interests me because I was reading a little bit about the way Japanese and Thai tourism has developed, maybe increased, I don't know, but certainly there was a waiving of visa restrictions recently, and one journalist was arguing that Thailand is a less problematic space for Japanese tourists to come to. It's seen as a friendly place, and whether they've seen this film, but the film certainly seems to have had an effect on the softening of views about. Well, I don't even know if they were particularly harsh in the first place, but certainly it's a less troubling place, and therefore we see tourists on this death railway site. From what we were gathering, perhaps not even really having a great connection, as you said, with the place. Right. And this all adds to that. I think what we're witnessing, and we talked about this earlier, we're very much all witnessing the kind of the strength of domestic tourism and also, Asian tourism, and how that new capital, as it were, reshapes the meaning of the place. Now, I don't want to push this too far. The trouble with these things is we're there 2 days. Sunday was very busy in terms of weekenders.
That's right, yeah.
Monday was still busy, but I really got a sense that this has changed dramatically, and in a way, perhaps, the bridge over the River Kwai, the film is no longer really as relevant. I mean, what do you think about this, Tim?
I think there's a long history to Japanese tourism in Southeast Asia, which is about the Japanese state promoting the idea of them giving aid post Second World War, a productive diplomatic and
political
power.
Tourism as reparation in a way, or not?
I'm not sure if it really is as much as that, but it's about. I think the Japanese government have had to both in terms of its own relations to its citizens, have had to construct a much more positive image of Japan in Southeast Asia post Second World War. Aid has flowed for decades, and it's gone into heritage sites, into development, into infrastructure, and I think
bridges.
Tourism, Japanese tourists going to Cambodia, Laos, Thailand have long understood the role of the Japanese positive influence in the region, and so it's as much as it's developing goodwill in the region. Japanese tourists have also come on the back of that, saying understanding that Japan has been a positive influence post Second World War, and the ways in which that shapes the ways in which I think the narratives through which people speak and continue to do that today.
Well, what I'm struck there by is, whereas, and we got to Hellfire Pass and I went through the visitor book, and I wouldn't have seen a Japanese name there for the last few days, and we talked to the assistant director, and they said very few Japanese, in fact, unless it was the organised reconciliation tour, and fewer of those these days. The bridge seemed to be an unproblematic space in which my grandfather travelled on the railway. And what I'm getting more and more is this is death railway, but what does death railway mean? Very much a living railway. The extraterritoriality thing was the other thing that I had to sort of rethink about, and about you coming here and thinking, in a way,
it doesn't really work as an analytical frame
for Kanchanaburi. I don't think so. Not on the least bit. I don't know what you think.
No, I think it's a language academia is used to understand these kind of international sites, and particularly these difficult sites of commemoration and war and atrocity. But I think in this context, obviously you've got the cemeteries, you've got the got the Hellfire Pass, which is under army land as well. That's worth noting.
Yeah.
That's right.
But certainly the kind of the urban environment and the museums, I think it's a much more complicated picture than that.